You don't need a new life. You need a new mindset. See, everything changes when you learn how to change the way you think. The mind is the gateway to everything you'll ever become. But most people walk around with mental clutter, outdated beliefs, and emotional baggage, and they wonder why they're stuck. If you want to unlock your potential, you've got to first reset your brain. Clear out the mental noise. Break the cycle of negative thinking. You reset your brain the same way you reset a computer. Shut it down, clean out the junk, and restart with focus. And you don't need magic. You need clarity, discipline, and a daily plan. Start by examining your thoughts. What are you telling yourself every day? Because if you're repeating doubt, fear, and failure, wiring your brain to produce more of the same. But if you install new thoughts, belief, action, and discipline, you create a new internal system. You reprogram the way you operate. Next, change your input. You can't reset your brain with the same people, the same drama, the same distractions. Surround yourself with people who talk about ideas, not complaints. Read books that challenge your limits, not just entertain your mind. Now here's the magic. Act before you feel ready. Grr. Too many wait for motivation, but action creates motivation. Resetting your brain doesn't mean you wake up tomorrow and everything's perfect. It means you commit daily to new standards, new thoughts, and new behaviors. That's the key. You weren't born stuck. You were trained to think small. And now you can unlearn what no longer serves you. When you change your thinking, you change your life. Not in theory, but in real, tangible ways. You get better results. You build better habits. You attract better opportunities. So if you're ready to unlock your potential, don't wait for a sign. Be the sign. Reset your brain. Rewire your life. And watch how far you can go. You don't need a new life, just a new mindset. Because the truth is, your current life has all the raw materials you need. It's not about throwing everything away and starting from scratch. It's about seeing what's already there with a different set of eyes. A new mindset turns obstacles into opportunities. It turns pain into power. It turns delay into development. Most people think they need a better job, a different relationship, a bigger house, or a new city. But what they really need is a shift in perspective. Because you can put someone in the perfect situation, and if their mindset is broken, they'll still fail. And you can put someone in a tough situation, but with the right mindset, they'll find a way to grow. That's the difference. Your mindset determines how you interpret the world, how you respond to challenges, and how you show up every single day. If you believe you're stuck, your mind will filter life through limitation. But if you believe you can change, your brain will start looking for ways to make it happen. It's not magic. It's focus. It's not luck. It's intention. And here's the secret. Your mindset is your responsibility. No one else can rewire it for you. No one else can think your thoughts, choose your attitude, or build your habits. It all starts with you. And that's the good news. Because if you built a negative mindset through repetition and environment, you can build a powerful one the same way. Through new routines, through better associations, through choosing thoughts that serve you, not sabotage you. A new mindset isn't about pretending everything's perfect. It's about choosing to respond with strength when it's not. Choosing discipline when it's hard. Choosing growth when it's uncomfortable. Because life will keep handing you the same lessons until you learn them. But the moment you decide to think differently is the moment everything begins to shift. Not because your world changed, but because you did. Replace I can't with the I'm learning. Replace I'm stuck with I'm growing. Do it enough and your brain starts to believe it. Believe it long enough and your life starts to reflect it. Not by chance, but by design. By the design of your repeated thoughts, new thoughts create new neural pathways. That's not just an idea. It's science. Your brain is wired to adapt. Every thought you think sends signals down a path in your brain. And the more you repeat that thought, the stronger the path becomes. It's like walking through a field. One step doesn't leave much of a mark. But walk that path every day, and soon you've created a trail. Your thoughts work the same way. When you think the same thought over and over, you build a mental trail. A pathway your brain will default to. If the thought is negative, you're reinforcing doubt, fear, and hesitation. But when you start thinking differently, when you choose new thoughts, you begin to form new trails, new neural pathways. You teach your brain that a new way is possible. And the more you think that new thought, the more real it becomes to your mind. You begin to fire different neurons. You feel different emotions. You take different actions. That's how change really happens, from the inside out. You don't wait for life to give you better circumstances. You train your brain to build better patterns. And it all starts with intention. You can't control every thought that pops up, but you can choose which ones to dwell on. You can feed the thoughts that serve your growth and starve the ones that hold you back. Over time, this changes your identity. You stop being the person who reacts. You start becoming the person who creates direction, creates discipline, creates belief. That's the power of new thoughts. They don't just inspire, they rewire. They reshape the way your brain processes challenges. They unlock doors you didn't know were closed. And they open up a version of you that's been waiting to emerge. Your brain is not fixed, it's moldable. It's ready to adapt the moment you decide to feed it something better. And when you do that consistently, your whole life begins to shift. Because the brain follows the thinker. And the thinker, you, holds the power to choose what comes next. Your input matters. What you read, hear, and who you associate with. You're not just influenced by what you actively pay attention to. You're shaped by what you allow to enter your mind over and over again. Your environment is constantly feeding your thoughts. And your thoughts are creating your future. So if you want to change your life, you have to start by changing your input. If you consume negativity, your thoughts will reflect that negativity. If you surround yourself with people who complain, doubt, and blame, that mindset will rub off on you. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. We all absorb energy, consciously and unconsciously. But the opposite is also true. Friend, when you surround yourself with people who think big, act boldly, and speak life, something in you begins to rise. When you read words that challenge your limits and listen to voices that inspire growth, your thinking expands. And when your thinking expands, your decisions get better. Your focus sharpens. Your standards rise. You begin to realize that you don't need to know everything. You just need to choose better sources. What you read can either feed your fears or fuel your faith. What you listen to can either drain your energy or lift your spirit. And who you spend time with can either push you forward or pull you back. That's why you must be intentional. Be selective. Protect your mental space like it's your most valuable asset. Because it is. If someone constantly brings chaos, distance yourself. If a book doesn't build you, close it. If a voice doesn't align with your vision, tune it out. You don't owe anyone access to your attention. You owe yourself the discipline to feed your mind what strengthens it. The right input can rewire your belief system. It can break generational cycles. It can wake you up to your own potential, but it won't happen by accident. You must choose it daily, deliberately, and with purpose. Because what you consume today becomes the foundation of who you are tomorrow. And if you want to rise higher, your input must match the level of your ambition. Action comes before motivation, not the other way around. Most people wait to feel inspired before they move. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect energy, the perfect mindset. But that moment rarely shows up because motivation isn't the spark, it's the result. You don't get fired up and then act. You act, and then the fire starts to build. You move first, then your mind begins to follow. That's the truth most people miss. They think motivation is what drives discipline. But in reality, discipline drives motivation. Even the smallest step forward can shift your state. One action can disrupt self-doubt. One decision can build momentum. But if you keep sitting, waiting, hoping, you're giving your power away. You're allowing your feelings to dictate your future. And that's a dangerous place to live. Because feelings are unpredictable. Some days you'll feel unstoppable. Other days you won't feel like doing anything. And if your progress depends on emotion, you'll never be consistent. But if your progress depends on commitment, you'll move even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient. That's the difference between waiting and winning. Winners understand this. Motivation is created in motion. Created in motion. You start writing and the ideas come. You start working out and the energy builds. You start planning and the clarity follows. It's not magic, it's momentum. And momentum is created by movement, by doing the thing before you feel ready. By pushing through resistance, not waiting for it to disappear. You'll be amazed what one small act can do. One task completed, one promise kept, one decision made with courage instead of comfort. That's how you train your mind to show up, regardless of how you feel. And over time, that mindset becomes automatic. You become the person who acts first, The person who doesn't wait to be motivated but chooses to move anyway. And in that movement, you unlock something powerful. Not just results, but belief, confidence, drive. And that's the fuel that keeps you going long after others have stopped. That daily discipline beats random bursts of effort. Consistency is what builds greatness, not occasional intensity. Anyone can push hard for a day. Anyone can feel inspired for a moment and take massive action. But the real transformation happens in the quiet, ordinary days. The days when motivation is low, but you show up anyway. The days when no one is watching and you choose excellence over excuses. Because discipline isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about doing the right things regularly. It's about building habits that move you forward, even in small steps. And those small steps, repeated daily, compound into massive results. Success isn't built in a day. It's built daily, through early mornings, focused hours, and the decision to keep going when you'd rather quit. Random bursts of energy might get you started, but they won't carry you through. You can't build anything meaningful by showing up only when you feel like it. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It's a commitment, a choice to honor your goals, even when your emotions try to negotiate. It's doing the reps, writing the pages, making the calls. Whatever your path requires, do it daily, even when it's boring, even when it's hard. That's how you build trust with yourself. That's how confidence is created, by doing what you said you would do. And when you stack enough days like that, you start to notice something. You're no longer waiting for inspiration. You're generating it. You're no longer relying on willpower. You're powered by discipline. That's when everything changes. Because while others are chasing sparks, you've built a fire. And it keeps burning. It burns through fear, through setbacks, through distractions, not because you're special, but because you've mastered something rare: daily discipline. That's the secret. Not loud, not glamorous, but powerful beyond measure. Because it doesn't just change your outcomes, it changes who you become. You must unlearn old thinking to embrace new potential. Growth isn't just about adding more. It's about releasing what no longer fits. Because you can't build a new life with outdated beliefs. You can't walk into your future carrying the weight of your past mindset. Some thoughts were useful once, but now they're holding you back. You learn to play it safe. You learn to doubt yourself. You learn to expect less so you wouldn't be disappointed. But just because you learned it doesn't mean you have to keep it. You can unlearn fear. You can unlearn limitation. You can unlearn the lie that says you're not enough. Because those thoughts didn't come from your potential. They came from pain, from your environment, from moments where you were hurt or overlooked or misunderstood. But now you're not that same person. You're stronger, you're wiser, and you're ready for something greater. But to step into it, you have to clear the mental space. Make room for new beliefs, new standards, new expectations. That begins with awareness. Notice the patterns. Notice the excuses that show up on repeat. Notice the stories you tell yourself when things get hard. Are they based on truth or habit? Because every time you repeat a limiting thought, you reinforce it. But every time you challenge it, you weaken its grip. Unlearning isn't passive. It takes intention. It takes practice. But with each shift in thought, you peel away another layer. And underneath all those layers is the real you. The you who's not afraid to try. The you who believes in growth. The you who knows there's more waiting on the other side of discomfort. That's the path to potential. It doesn't come from addition. It comes from subtraction. Letting go of what you were taught to believe, so you can become who you were meant to be. When you unlearn the limits, you make room for power. When you unlearn the doubt, you make space for courage. And when you unlearn the noise, you finally hear your true voice. Your environment should elevate your thinking, not drain it. Where you spend your time and who you spend it with shapes how you think, shapes how you feel, shapes what you believe is possible. If you're surrounded by chaos, don't be surprised when your mind feels cluttered. If you're constantly around negativity, don't be shocked when your motivation fades. Your environment is like soil. You can't grow strong roots in toxic ground. Even the best seed won't bloom if the environment is working against it. And your mind is no different. You need space to think clearly. You need voices that challenge you, not chain you. You need surroundings that spark ambition, not drain it away. The people you talk to every day, the content you consume, the energy in the room, all of it matters. It's either lifting you or limiting you, and you have to get honest about that. Sometimes the biggest shift you can make isn't internal, it's external. Sometimes your growth is being stifled by a room that's too small for your vision, a conversation that's too limited for your goals, an atmosphere that's too noisy for your clarity. And you owe it to your future to make a change. That might mean spending less time with people who gossip and more time with people who build. It might mean cleaning your space so your mind can breathe. It might mean saying no more often, so you can focus more deeply. Elevation requires intention. You can't grow higher if you're constantly pulled lower. And while you can't always control everything around you, you can control what you allow to stay. You can choose what you tolerate. You can choose what you let in. You can choose to build an environment where your best self isn't just possible, it's expected, where growth is normal, where clarity is protected, where energy is respected. Because when your environment supports your vision, everything becomes easier. Your focus sharpens, your momentum builds, your progress accelerates, not because the world changed, but because you chose to rise above what was holding you back. Change your thoughts, and you'll change your entire direction. That's where it all begins. Not with the world, not with your circumstances, but with the thoughts you allow to live in your mind. Because your life moves in the direction of your dominant thinking. If your thoughts are filled with fear, you'll hesitate. If your thoughts are filled with doubt, you'll hold back. If your thoughts are filled with excuses, you'll stay stuck. But the moment you choose a new thought, you give yourself permission to move differently, to show up with more confidence, to act with more purpose, to speak with more clarity. Thoughts are not just ideas, they're commands. They shape how you see the world. They influence what you believe about yourself. And those beliefs become the filter through which you make decisions. Small shifts in thought can create massive shifts in direction. Think I can't, and you shut the door. Think I will find a way, and the door opens. Think I'm stuck and you freeze. Think I'm learning and you move. It's subtle but powerful. Because when your thoughts shift, your choices shift. And when your choices shift, your habits shift. And when your habits shift, your results transform. This is how real change begins. From the inside out. You don't need a new plan until you build a new mindset. You don't need better luck. You need better thinking. Most people look outside for answers, but transformation is an inside job. It starts with what you say to yourself in the quiet moments. It starts with what you believe when no one's watching. And here's the truth. Your current life is a reflection of your past thoughts, but your future life will be shaped by the thoughts you choose today. That's your power. You don't have to be stuck. You don't have to repeat the same patterns. You don't have to live a life that doesn't fit your potential. You can choose again. And when you change the way you think, the world around you begins to respond differently. New ideas show up. New people enter your life. New strength rises within you. All because you decided to think a better thought. So remember this. Your life doesn't change by chance. It changes by choice. And the most powerful choice you can make is to take control of your thinking. Because when you reset your mind, you redirect your path. You stop living on autopilot and start living with intention. You stop surviving and start thriving. So choose clarity over chaos. Choose discipline over delay. Choose growth over comfort. And no matter where you've been, decide right now to think better so you can live greater. The change starts in your mind. And from there, everything is possible.